Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. These are the candidates for this afternoon's efforts. That is Tiny Twinkle. That's going on a mount. I've mounted a Twinkle recently, so I won't be filming that, but we'll have a look at what's inside the pot. This is a Miltoniopsis, and it's still in the same media that it was in when I got it. It's been in there too long already, and as a consequence I may have already lost the root system. We'll find out in a minute. This is Peter Comp. This is in this, and boy am I glad I didn't water this. Unfortunately I did water the others. This has got new growth forming now. It's got a nice one pushing on here, and it's got another one just starting here. So this is at a suitable time to repot. Most of these aerial roots have gone, I believe, so they're not recoverable, and it's in that coconut type stuff that I just don't like. So that one's coming out, that's pushed its way to the front of the queue, and then I'm going to take the bull by the horns and get this Psychopsis out of its pot. This is a big risk, but it's no more of a risk than leaving it in there. It's been in this pot a long time, and when I originally potted it up, I didn't unpot it prior. What I did, because it was a solid mass, the root ball, it was heavenly, but a solid mass, I couldn't untangle it. So all I did was tease out some of the outside roots and then pot it in a bigger pot with fresh media around the outside. Well, that fresh media is no longer fresh, it's old. And whatever was in the middle is still there. So I need to get that out. The really bad leaf on this one actually fell off. So it was on the oldest pseudo bulb, so no big deal there. This now has two leafless pseudo bulbs, but unfortunately they're on opposite sides of the plant, and one of them is right next to the latest new growth. So I daren't touch that. That's got to stay there or I will damage that. Yeah? The one right round the back that's quite low in the pot, I might be able to tease that one off, but this has got two flower spikes which are up near the ceiling. They are, what's that, 2'6", yeah, 2'6" long, and I've got to go incredibly careful not to damage those while I'm repotting it. The best thing to do would be take those spikes off, but these things take a very, very long time to recreate a flower spike, grow it up to the height and push their first bud out. So if I take these spikes off, I'm not going to see blooms on this for a very, very long time. So I'm going to try and repot it with the spikes intact. One of them is just showing green, so it's about to push out a new flower, but that's probably 6 to 8 weeks away from blooming, and the other spike has no green on it and may actually be lost anyway, I'm not sure. But I do have a new growth, and God knows what I'm going to find in that pot. So this video is about the getting out of the pot bit and just having a look round. I'm certainly not going to film the Twinkle, but that's going to be the first one out of the pot. As I said, I've mounted a Twinkle recently. This one would be exactly the same. What's the point in filming exactly the same again? It just seems pointless to me. It'd be better to do something different and have a look. So Oncidium Tiny Twinkle this is. And that's not a good root system. Yeah, no wonder. Now this plant has suffered badly inside there. Well, let's just turn that light on. That might help. Might not. But there's a few dead pseudo bulbs in here that I'm going to try and get off, and I might have to sacrifice a few good ones to do that. But I need to clean the base of this plant up. You can see that's no good. And there are still some signs of scale right in the center of that plant. The trouble is with a systemic insecticide is it won't get into old pseudo bulbs. There's no movement within inside the plant to move that insecticide around that part of the plant. So it's not going to get into old bulbs. So if the scale are on those old bulbs, unless you actually hit them with the insecticide, because it is also a contact killer, they get to live, you know. And it's the same right down inside the sheaths as well. The base of the pseudobulbs, the insecticide doesn't really have a great effect at that part of the plant. Its biggest effect is up in the leaves, where the movement up through the plant is continuous, up through the roots, on up into the leaves, different cells being created, and movement of the hydration, the water and the nutrients up through the plant and then out through the leaves. That's the process. And if you take the insecticide with you as you do that process, the plant becomes protected. But it can't get into old pseudobulbs, and it doesn't go downwards as far as I know, so it won't make its way down to the base of a pseudobulb. It moves upwards. So there are parts of the plant it can't get at. So that's going to have a good clean up, and it will be mounted. We've got a little new growth there with a couple of new roots coming out. There's another one there. If I can get the old pseudobulbs out of the way. So anyway, that one's going on a mount. No question about that. It's a nice miniature Oncidium. It'll look nice on a mount. So that's that one. Let's get that out of the way. What's the next mess then? Let's have a look at this Miltoniopsis. I expect the roots to be poor. I've never taken a Miltoniopsis store-bought out of a pot and found a good root system yet. But let's see what we have got. Well, that's not the worst media I've seen them planted in. I've seen better, but I have seen a lot worse. I think we may just be in time. Just about. These roots are not all gone. Some are, and some aren't. This is the cool time of year. I don't mean cool as in he, I mean cool as in not warm. Yeah? So this is a better time to have a go at a Miltoniopsis than later in the spring when the days are starting to get hot. See, this centre bit here, the oldest part, they're gone. They've had it. They're of no more use. But there are some good bits. Possibly savable, but these are a fussy lot and they do not like having their roots messed about with. They really don't. So that just needs a good clean up. Get these dead sheaths off. I always do that when I clean a plant up. It allows the hydrogen peroxide to get into all those little crevices and cracks at the base of the pseudobulbs, and that's the place where bugs and things can hide. So we'll give that a clean up. That tiny little old bulb can come off. That's serving no purpose. And that leaves me with two pseudobulbs, a new growth coming up the middle and another new growth coming up there. So two older bulbs still with good leaves on and two new growths pushing on. I am hopeful that I can save that and get it to push on, mainly because of the time of year I'm doing it. If I left that a couple of months till proper spring, one, I've already put it under stress taking it out of the pot. I'm going to put it under more stress in a minute by taking half its roots off, if not 2/3. And then it's going to go in new media, more stress. But because the temperatures are cool and these like to be cool, it's less stress than it would be later in the year. And it will give it more time to get a hold prior to getting to those warmer temperatures. So that's that one. That wasn't bad media, actually. Let me just rinse my hands. As I said, I've seen a lot worse with Miltoniopsis. I've seen them grow in total rubbish. One I had many years ago, one of the first ones I got, was in dirt. I think somebody just put a flipping trowel in the garden and put a shovel full of dirt in a pot. It was awful. They won't grow in that sort of media. They need some air around them. Right, Peter Comp. One of my favourite flowers and one of my most fragrant. And you'd better have a root system. This is another one of these. If it's got a lousy root system and I lose the plant, it's easily replaced. Well, that's not even a root system, let alone a lousy one. That's in peat. That's what that coconut stuff breaks down to. It just turned into like a claggy peat. I'm hoping somewhere in here there's going to be some roots that are not too bad. Some of these are okay, they're a little bit dry. It's so difficult to water this media without getting it so wet, and then it stays wet for flipping ages, and it's a perfect media to rot roots in. You can get good at it, or better at it. See, it's got the solid plug of moss in the middle there. That's the death knell. I don't know why suppliers think that's okay, because it flipping well isn't. All it does is break down, turn acidic and kill the centre root part of the plant. And then all you're left with is what's managed to get a hold around the outside. Well, we've got some salvageable roots. Once that's got under the tap and got all this muck out, these aren't that bad. Those are dead. These aren't that bad, and with a nice new growth there that's obviously, it's even showing signs of new roots. If I get that sheath out of the way, there we go. You can just see the little nubbins starting at the base of that. So that's good, they'll go straight into new media. And this little one round here will push on behind. No sign of roots on that one yet. But a salvageable root system, I've seen worse. Get that plug out of the middle. You know, luckily that plug is under the two oldest pseudo bulbs, including that little seedling pseudo bulb. So by taking it out, it'll put some air under the centre of the plant. And any roots that push out from the new growths are going to go in all directions. I know it always seems like they head for the edge of the pot, but that's not strictly speaking true. That's just the ones you see. Some of them are heading back into the centre of the pot. And if they hit that, they die. So this needs to be gone and replaced with a nice airy media, and any roots that do head in that direction get something to grow in, not something to die in. Okay, so that's that one. It's a good healthy plant. That will be fine. No worries about that one. Now this next one, God knows what I'm going to find in this pot. I'm dreading this to an extent because I'm and the way I'm going to do this, I think I'm going to hit the camera a couple of times with the ends of the flower spikes. Let's see what we can do. I've been dreading this. I know it's been coming a long time. I've got to do it. It's been in this pot far too long already. And every time it pushed another bloom out on one of the spikes, I was saying to myself, oh well, after this flower then I'll repot it. And then the next spike would bloom. I go, right, after this flower I'll repot it. And it's been put off far too long. I'm going to have to take the stakes off, and that makes the flower spikes vulnerable. But we'll see what we can do. I don't know, any of you that have had a psychopsis, this flower cane here is as strong as the stake. These are incredibly strong. They have to be. These are perpetual. This could flower for 10 years. One bloom after the other after the other. They've got to be strong. So we get the stakes out. Let's see what we've got. I'll actually turn the spikes away from the camera because I'm that handed. So, oh look. So whatever that was is useless. That just lifted out of the pot. I didn't unpot it, it fell out. And there is not a root system under that plant. They've virtually all gone. That solid mass of moss is still there. You can see it there. It's still there. I'm going to have to clean that right out this time. The only roots that look viable on there are this little few just here. And I'm going to have to take great care of those. And everything else is just going to get cut off and cleaned up. That's doubtful that that's going to make it, quite honestly. It just depends how it reacts to coming out of that, which was doing it no good at all, quite honestly, and getting some air around the base by removing that solid mass of dead roots and moss. It may respond to that. It may just turn up its toes and decide to die. But all I can do is try. It's not a rare plant. I mean, this came from the RHS show, and if that vendor's there again, they had about 30 of these, varying in size from this one that had two, well, it had one spike in bloom and the other spike pushing on, which I then got up to flowering size. They had plants there with 8 spikes on, all in bloom. From that size down to you know, small plants pushing up their first spike. They had an assortment. So if that vendor's there again, I can easily replace this plant with a nice shiny new one. But bearing in mind, you know, the way this was potted up and how long it had already been in its pot when I got it, that's where the damage was done, not repotting it properly then, which is quite a long time ago now. I'll do what I can with it and see what we get, but most of this is just dead. There's not a lot of good stuff there. All I can hope is that that new growth is capable of pushing out some more roots and supporting the plant with the few roots that are there already. That's all I can hope for. So I'll close it down now, and as I said, I may film some more as I'm potting them up once the plants are cleaned. I'm certainly not going to film mounting the twinkle, there's no point, and I'll see how I go. But that'll do for getting them out of the pot and having a chat about them, what state they're in, how they got in that state, in this case partly me, in the others vendors. That's what we have to live with. Okay, I'll close this one down and see you again next time. Thanks for dropping by.